available today. So we changed it yesterday. And thank you, Smita, that you give all the possibilities that we have all the things with the second part. But I have to introduce that's a community thing. That means it's not only technical, and we will run later on a little part of that you see what's going with a community bot for OneDrive. And first, we have to look what's going on. I have to say, yes, thank you, Stephan, that you have early in the morning. So I went in the morning here in Germany. We have now 9:45. So you have to listen for that. That means in the early morning, I was going to the grocery, the first one. Here we have springtime today, and the weather is fine. Yesterday we have snow. Now it's spring, and we will start. Stephan, it's up to you.
Thanks, Hans. So we had snow this night, so it's a couple of centimeters snow. And yesterday I was out wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and today I need to put on my heavy jacket again, which is kind of weird. But thanks anyway. So let's kick off the session, community build for OneDrive. I'm lucky to present that with Hans. As he said, Tommy, who's also part of this group, isn't available today, but we three are mainly the people who build a bot, as the title says. So we want to introduce the bot a little bit to you guys in the next couple of minutes. So my name is Stephan. I'm from Austria, as Hans already said. And I'm a technical lead at a company at Solvion, and also AI MVP, working in the fields of bots. And that's why we did that kind of bot, because Hans, as you might know, is Mr. OneDrive. So he's the go-to person when it's about OneDrive. And so we thought about why not getting his knowledge into a bot. But I guess Hans will explain the details in a bit. So Hans, maybe you'll introduce yourself as well before we start off the show. You're muted.
So I have to say yes. Normally I mute myself and not unmute. It's okay. People know me about that's the fourth time I speak in India the last 6 months. So that's very interesting. But this is a different session. Not only to tell the people what's going on with collaboration and OneDrive. Yes, we will have a challenge in the second part of our session. So the thing was, and that is on the next slide. When you change that we have to do a little bit about the history of Mr. OneDrive. So that means, yes, I speak almost the last 3 or 4 or 5 years about OneDrive. I started with old things 10 years ago, and I found, hey, that's the basic of all the stuff. That's interesting. And I think it was 1.5 years, we came to a SharePoint Saturday or Microsoft 365 day. That was very interesting. We have it in July 29. That was a SharePoint conference in Vienna in Austria. And I met Stephan and also Tommy, and we talk about a bot, what my institution was. Hey, what's a bot? What's my thing? And I was far, far away. And therefore they say, okay, we should think that. And we have a lot of drinks in the evening, and that's very interesting to talk with each other. Then the times go on, and that means the next time we speak about that. Then we called it in Munich, and they present me a thing. It was special. They say, hey, we have a mock-up made for you. That's Mr. OneDrive's bot. And I say, what do you want? And you can say it. That was the first pictures about that. That means they want to digitize me. Stephan, you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we thought about building a bot which has actually the knowledge of Hans concerning OneDrive and all the stuff around it. Because as we got to know Hans, he's mainly the person, when you speak about OneDrive, you always think about Hans, because he's the one who has the most knowledge about that kind of technology and stuff around it. Not only OneDrive itself, but all the things which are around OneDrive, integrations into Windows and stuff, and SharePoint and stuff like that. So we thought about why not getting his knowledge and feeding a service with that knowledge. And that service we fed into was a Q&A maker, which is basically built and designed to build up knowledge bases and host information and knowledge. And so we started in March 2020 to build up a database or knowledge base, which actually Hans fed with his knowledge in German. So he actually went on and inserted questions and answers, which he thought of might be of interest to people and to the audience later on. So that was the first shot we did. And then all of a sudden, when Hans, I don't know how many questions you inserted into German, into the knowledge base, all of a sudden we kind of found out that as we want to go multilingual, German is not the base when it's about translating from and to German. So we decided to actually flip the coin and switch to the English version of the knowledge base. So Hans took his knowledge from the German knowledge base, translated it into English, and built up an English knowledge base with that. And I guess you can talk a little bit about the first release of the beta version, which you rolled out to certain key users and friends of us.
Yes, that was in February, March, until the 6th in 2020. We have a first beta release with 100 people. They checked it with different versions, and we found out it's not the correct one. We want to have it with 50 languages. Some languages, and we will see it later on, it's correct, but language is different. So we found out, okay, the Dutch version was brilliant with our first introduction, but the second one we found Czechoslovakia, Poland, and so on. Other languages we have no chance, not at this time. So we decide we make it only 2 languages, English first, database, and although with German. That was at the beginning to say, okay, now I have found out. Normally I speak about to people in workshops and so on, big companies with 100,000 people. That's a 2 days workshop, and all the questions are for the IT people. But listen, the idea was that normally it will run in Teams, and you will see it later. That means, hey, if it's run in Teams, the normal user is there. So I have to look inside Google and have to say, hey, what does people ask if they ask about OneDrive? What are the questions? And bring all the questions now in. And now we have 650 questions there and a lot of answers, and building all the answers. And you see also the difference later on. Okay, yeah. That was the first release.
So in late 2020, we submitted the first release to actually Microsoft to get an approval for placing our Mr. OneDrive spot into the Teams App Store, into the public store, so everyone can actually download it. And we found out that isn't as straight away as it should be, because we had a little, or mostly Hans had a little discussion around naming and stuff. He can elaborate on that, because you're not allowed to have, let's say, product names in your Teams app name and stuff like that, and you have to follow certain rules when it's about pictures and images and stuff like that. So it's a kind of overhead you need to face when you actually build a Teams app which you want to place into the public Teams store, right, Hans?
Yeah, and the problem is this stuff, there's a company in India that's very interesting. Around the planet there are more, but they look for all these apps that come into the store. And yes, we have to investigate. Legal and Brand, so from the OneDrive group, they do it and they discard that. But at least the vice president of OneDrive said, okay, we have to change it a little bit. And okay, in the bubble of Microsoft, the people know me, but if you have it in Teams and you know there are so many users, daily active users, over 100 million, these people do not know Mr. OneDrive. So that changed it, and this name is now discussion and is there. And we have that he is the community bot for OneDrive. So you see, Mr. OneDrive, no, but the community bot for OneDrive. And in the past, I have to say, hey, it's good. That's a round thing, and we have to do that. And we changed all the pictures in there. The branding was okay, and now we are releasing and fighting a little bit with Microsoft about that, about the pictures. That's the last thing. And then you will see it in the few weeks that we have to do it with the community bot for OneDrive.
Yeah. So before Hans already mentioned it, we have a little challenge in the part 2 of that session where we will actually compare who is faster. Is it Hans answering questions, or is it the community bot for OneDrive? But before we'll do that, we thought of to give you a short overview about the technical part. So what's behind it? How does the bot actually work? How do you build a bot? How can you maybe build a bot as well for the Teams App Store? So we'll kick off with a little platform overview of what is the Teams platform per se. So if you know Teams, you know, it's a kind of rich platform where you can integrate a lot of stuff in there. So you have, first of all, of course, comments and actions. So you can use those kind of things to trigger certain workflows, start processes, or even search for content right within your text editor field. Then you have tabs and modal pop-ups. Tabs, everyone knows what a tab is. You have that kind of tabs within a channel where you can surface content right within Teams, within your channel. Doesn't have to be a content piece which resides in the Microsoft 365 space, can also reside somewhere else. So you can actually bring information from other services and solutions right into your Teams channel. Next up, and that's the thing we're talking about today, bots and connectors. Bots mainly are there to help people answer certain questions or fulfill certain tasks with the need or with the use of natural language. So it's all about having a conversation with the service in the backend via natural language. And the last thing is you can also seamlessly integrate with the Teams UX. So you can actually build certain apps on your own using the Teams toolkit and stuff like that to actually populate Teams even more with your own apps. Under that, technology-wise, you make use of the Microsoft Graph, of course, for building bots and all other services. You might use the Bot Framework SDK, and therefore, when you build stuff on Teams, you have the ability to reach across devices because Teams is also available not only on the desktop, it's available as a web app and of course as a mobile app. So potentially you can use it wherever you are. There are certain tools and stuff like that built for either enterprise developers. So as I said, there are many SDKs and stuff like that for developing apps for Teams. As an admin, you have rich controls to manage apps in your organization. So you even can create your organizational app store if you want to have, let's say, a kind of subset of apps you want to offer to your users. You can build up an organizational app store to manage which apps could be used by potential users. And as an ISV, and that's the part where we are in right now. If you want to publish an app, you can actually use the app source to make your app available on the Teams App Store, and you can also get a certification badge, if you will, saying Microsoft tested it, Microsoft proved that this app is not, let's say, either malware or stuff like that, so you can safely use it. So that's the thing you actually need to run through whenever you publish an app through the App Store. Microsoft will test that app. They will test it heavily. And they will make sure that you have, for first of all, no bugs in there, and second of all, the app is not kind of malware or stuff like that. So diving into the field of bot, what is a bot? If you don't know what a bot is, if you haven't used a bot yet, it's mainly can be compared to a computer program, which of course is designed to have that kind of conversation with the human being, with the user. And the primary goal of a bot is to solve the user's needs in the quickest and easiest way possible. So the premise for using a bot is it should always make something easier, make something faster for the end user using the bot. It shouldn't complicate the process. And we'll see that later on. I mean, I've Hans' mobile phone number. If I have a question around OneDrive, I can give him a call. But if you don't have Hans' mobile number and you can reach him, what you need to do if you have a question about OneDrive, you need to search Google or search the Microsoft Docs or something like that, or even send out an email to the product group of OneDrive. So the time between you have that question and it will be answered will be rather long compared to the same use case if you just have that bot which has the knowledge to answer all your questions around OneDrive. The time to answer is quite short because you just ask the question and the bot will immediately answer the question for you. So it makes something easier, it makes something quicker in around that process, and it helps me as an end user. And of course, if you use a bot, you have you have to change to introduce artificial intelligence in a more friendly way to end users because many will maybe be afraid of using some kind of AI services because they don't know what's actually in there. Um, and that way, you actually can tell people, hey, this won't take your job and stuff like that in the future. This will be there to help you, to assist you, and be some kind of digital assistance for you. From the technology, if you speak about bots in the in kind of general way, it's mainly, as I said, a computer program. You can think of the bot as a web app, which has a REST endpoint, which runs your code inside that web app. So you have your business logic running as code within your web app. You can integrate with certain platforms. So it's not only about, because it's just a Microsoft product, it's not only about .NET. You can build a bot using JavaScript. You can build a bot using Java or even Python. So you mainly are free to use whichever programming language and tooling you want to use. You can integrate intelligent tools into it for language understanding, as I said, for answering questions using the Q&A maker, which we use quite heavily. So you have a pretty large choice of using some kind of AI tooling you need to use to fulfill your use cases. And Microsoft offers a pretty slick SDK for building bots, which is called the Bot Builder SDK and the Bot Framework SDK. So you don't need to start from scratch. There are a lot of boilerplate codes and templates and solution accelerators out there you can basically use to speed up things and get things going quite quicker. So that's the thing around how a bot actually looks like. From the conversational AI platform perspective, it's mainly about you have at the very bottom you have the SDKs and the frameworks to build a bot. As I said, the Bot Framework SDK, which is an open source SDK, by the way, so you can find the whole code on GitHub, and you can look behind the curtains what's in there. So that's the base for building a bot. On top of that, you have in Azure what's called the Azure Bot Service for hosting your bot. So it's kind of a managed service for hosting a bot, and as well connecting a bot to various channels. So as you see on that slide, you have the chance to use Teams as a channel for placing your bot into. You have the chance to use Facebook Messenger as a channel you can place your bot into. You can even place your bot as an SMS or text message bot, or even a telephony bot these days. So you have a wide range of channels, Microsoft first-party ones and third-party ones you can use to actually bring your bot to the end users wherever they are. So that's the thing around the Azure Bot Service. And what comes on top of that, and this is basically where the magic happens, are pre-trained AI services, which are named cognitive services in the Microsoft world. And they're categorized in different categories, ranging up from vision, speech, language decision, and web search. And within those categories, you'll find a set of services in form of APIs you can actually use to deliver certain intelligence into an application. It doesn't have to be a bot like in our case. It can be any application. So you can use cognitive services in Power Automate. You can use it in SPFX. You can use it, I don't know, in a Windows Forms app and stuff like that. So you can actually use those cognitive services wherever you need them to actually add certain intelligent features into your applications. And if you think about a bot, you mainly will be residing either in the speech category with speech to text, text to speech, and stuff like that. So that's the thing we want to tackle next with our community bots from OneDrive, to actually have a speaking bot, which might be then rolled out to Amazon Alexa or stuff like that. And for the very basic part, you might end up in the language section where you have language understanding, you have Q&A maker, text analytics, and stuff like that, and even translation. So that's the thing we used as well, to actually have a kind of automated translation service in there, which you can use to offer your application, your bot, to over 50 languages, or I guess it's already 70 languages as of now. So you can build the bot once, have the information in one language, and distribute the information across various languages to reach even more users with that. And on top of that, as I said, you have solution accelerators and templates, so you don't need to start from scratch. And if you look at the Teams App Store, and if you go to the bot section, each and every bot you'll see in there uses at least one or multiple pillars from that slide in here. So they're built using the Microsoft Bot Framework, they're using the Azure Bot Service to have that connection to Microsoft Teams. And if the bot is kind of intelligent, they'll use some kind of cognitive services for delivering that intelligence. So that's the thing about the technology behind it. Before we jump into the demo and into our challenge, we want to give you a glance of what our bot actually does. So we'll see that later on live as well. But in general, it's about the user asks a question. So the user will be staying in Teams, having Mr. Community Bot for OneDrive pinned into the left rail, for instance, and has a question about OneDrive. So what the user will do is open up the Community Bot for OneDrive, ask a question to the bot, and then Teams will actually route that question using the bot framework infrastructure through our bot. So that's the second thing. And after that, the bot logic, so our business logic in the web app running the bot, will retrieve the question, and then we'll see if, first of all, if the language spoken by the user is something different to what the bot actually knows. If so, we'll use the Bing translation services to translate the question into a question the bot actually understands. So if I, for instance, ask a question in, let's say, Spanish, the bot doesn't speak Spanish, but he's able to use the translator service to translate it into English or German in the end of time, and then use that translated question to query our Q&A maker service. And that's the service actually which is fed by Hans. So he actually thought about which kind of questions might be of interest to not only IT people, but also end users. So that's basically the knowledge base where all of the knowledge of Hans concerning OneDrive is stored. And as you said, we have more than 600 questions in there, so there's a lot of information in there. So the bot will query the Q&A maker service using the question from the user from step one, and then retrieve the answer. And if, let's say, the user asked in Spanish, we don't want to deliver the answer in English or German, because the user is using Spanish as a language, so you might want to have that conversation in Spanish. So what we'll need to do, if that's the case, we'll need to translate the answer into Spanish as well. So we'll use the same translator service to translate the answer we got from the Q&A maker knowledge base into Spanish again. If the user speaks English, we don't need to translate anything because the information is already stored in English. And after that, we'll route the answer back through the Azure Bot Framework infrastructure to Teams, and the bot will actually answer the user's question. So there's a lot of going on in there, and we have a lot of hops to take in there. So you might think it's kind of complicated architecture and stuff like that. And one could think that this whole process takes a lot of time from step 1 to step 8, and therefore we want to have some kind of challenge. So we want to see who is faster answering certain questions. So Hans is here to answer questions which we have prepared beforehand. So he will do that using his natural language, and I will try to answer the same questions using the community bot for OneDrive, and we'll see who is faster in giving the answer. So what I'll do now is I'll just quickly open up my Teams client in here, and to give you a glance how the community bot for OneDrive looks like, I've just installed it freshly on my Teams user account. So if you, in the future, if the bot will be available in the Teams App Store, if you'll install it, the community bot will actually say hello to you. He will introduce himself in German and English, because these are the languages we support as of now. You can even, with one click, go to Hans' blog in here and see what's going on his blog. If you want to deep dive into the knowledge he has, or if you want to go to the contact talk, you can do so. And if you just have a general question and you don't know how to proceed within the conversation, you just type in help, and the bot will actually help you. And so therefore, to start the challenge, we have the first let's say phrase or question about password protection. So what is password protection? As that, Hans will ask the question in his own words. I will in the same time ask the question to the community bot OneDrive, and we'll see who is first of all faster, and second of all easier to use. So Hans, what's password protection?
Yeah, password protection, you will have it to share. If you share some information using the anonymous answer about password protection, then you say, okay, to give the answer, but you have to say, hey, I give you a password with it. So that means you have to open it and you have to know the password. I call it dummies for, MFA dummies, multi-factor authentication, or 2FFA, two-factor authentication about a file. So if I share with you, I bought it also and say, okay, I protect it. And then you can open this if it's shared to an external only if you know the password. So I have lost this game. You are a little bit quicker. But the thing is about, we do not have all the questions and all the things we have and Microsoft has involved. Microsoft has a good library, docs.microsoft.com for OneDrive, but it's not completely. And you will see several things later on. Although, if we have the information, the bot will say, here is the information for Microsoft, and you will get it later on, now in English, or later on also in your language, because why should I do all the information inside the bot? That costs much time, but we are a little bit quicker. So think about last week, we have this AAD problem worldwide at the beginning of the week. So today I reached a message from Microsoft, okay, if you have a problem, you should do that and that. It was on Thursday if I had the problem, not on Saturday. So you see, that's the thing. We can answer it a little bit better. So that's the thing. Also, I lost the first question. Go up to the second one.
So storage limit, what's going on with storage limits in OneDrive?
Yeah. So normally, if you have an E3 plan or something like that, you have up to 5 terabyte, and you have to, normally it is centered, the system administrator has to say, okay, 1 terabyte is for you, but he can also give you more of this language, up to 5 or up to 25 or unlimited. You have to leave that. And that's the information you can also leave. If I have an article written down personally, you can also have to say, okay, there is an article, and you can read it in German or in English. And also you have a picture in there, you see, and then you see although the thing, if you open it, it's in a high resolution. But the thing is, sometimes we had a little bit problem because of AI and all this stuff you have seen in the technical part. You see, if you close it, Stephan, you see there is a quadrat. That's a 16:9 picture. And now this white field is not, if I have to have the field, no. That's a problem inside Teams because of the rendering engine. And And that's a little bit complicated because it's two different teams. It's not a OneDrive team. It's not the bot team. It's not the Teams team. That's a little bit we have to look for. And on the other hand, with the storage at SharePoint Online, you see we give additional thing. That means, okay, you can click and you do not have to type in, and you got several things on another part. That means I know that you need more information and you have that in there, and therefore it's there. I lost the second one for the time, yes, but I give them more information about that.
It's kind of cool because Hans actually, if you ask him a question about what's the storage in OneDrive for Business, he will tell you the whole story in OneDrive. He will also maybe tell you the story about storage in SharePoint Online and stuff like that. And when basically comparing that to the bot, you ask about storage limit, he will answer it with storage limit for OneDrive for Business because that's the primary source of knowledge. But he will also tell you, hey, if you want to know about storage limit in SharePoint Online or storage in SharePoint Online in general, just click here and get your question answered. And the same is true then for storage in OneDrive for Business and stuff like that. So it's basically the same information you get when you speak with Hans, but it's kind of more compact in a way. But
okay,
2-0 for Community Bot for OneDrive. Let's see if you can pick up on the allowed file tabs using this next question. So what about the allowed file tabs? What are they?
That's allowed file types. You can have some limit that not all things should be done, and that's a real new one. So that means 3-month-old the group policy. That means you can have it for the machines that you need not show and upload it to OneDrive or OneDrive for Business. It's a machine group policy, and that means you can say, okay, if I type in *PST, no PST will synchronize anymore, and therefore it's a little bit, if you have a business running and it collects several things, you can have wide characteristics and so on, and that means some files in your organization you want to have it not being uploaded to OneDrive, but only the new ones. You have to know that. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit quicker, but you have to read the Microsoft documentation, and that's interesting stuff with the Microsoft documentation. We will see a little bit later, because sometimes you have to say to the Microsoft people, hey, it's not correct. They are working with that. If you now go to OneDrive for group policies, for example, you only find it in German and English, because I have to split off with the product group, completely redesign it, because they make some difficulties, and now they redesign and make it for all the other, I think, 20 languages here. If you go to Dutch, you only find the information, this time only in English or German.
Okay. So
3-2-0. Well, I have no chance about that.
Next question, Fort Knox. What's Fort Knox?
Fort Knox is you can store some gold inside United States. Okay, Fort Knox is also called. That's a short one. I was very simple, but you have to know there is a single thing, and you have no time. But you can also click on the video. So video will also run. That's a perfect thing. We do not have to do that. When you find all the information, and that's very interesting. That security, and they called it Fort Knox, is encryption and rest. So that means if you have a file, it will go inside all these vaults. Do you see 64K vaults, and there are stored, and there will have a description. You don't have to see the keys, never. It's only inside Microsoft, and other people can also not have it. Think about that's a store for 64 keys multiplied by 4, but several keys for one document. Means yes, you have the documents there, but you don't have to say, oh, now I have one key. I can look for differences. You only have 24 hours. You need some power like NSA has to involve that, because all files will be reestablished with new keys each day, all 24 hours. Not only this key, not only my keys for my documents in my tenant, all tenants around the world. That's called Fort Knox.
Pretty cool. And what about mobile clients, Hans?
Mobile clients, oh, we have to look. There are so many things that you have to say. I will do it with a video. And there are videos from Microsoft you have to look. And that's the short answer. You can do it with a lot with mobile clients and look at the videos. I have spent it for you, and that means it's okay. It will run.
Okay, cool. And actually, that's a question which I had in mind a couple of times already. What's the difference between private and public OneDrive?
So I also look for people because big companies I can train, but not all the people. I look for Reddit. I look for different things, and the people have no understanding about what's the different OneDrive and OneDrive for Business. And you see, we have also found that's not the normal thing, but I know that it's not in the article that you have some gifts. So I take all these gifts, and that's a completely stuff. You see what you can synchronize, and that's you see also here in the middle part, OneDrive for Business. So if you go to an Office 365 tenant with EU3 or something, that means each person in the company has a business OneDrive. And Microsoft called it OneDrive. So the thing about that, if you look for them, if you speak with a Microsoft product group with OneDrive, and I call them, hey, what we have to do? They're always, if no one is in the room, they call it, okay, we have it in OneDrive for Business, or they call it OneDrive Consumer. That's a personal thing. Yeah, you can have only one OneDrive personal, but they use it. If they go on stage, they only speak about OneDrive. So that's the marketing stuff that makes so many problems. And most of the questions I have to do it in Reddit. If there is a problem, I have to say, do you need OneDrive or OneDrive for Business? Because it's different. OneDrive Personal is not on base of SharePoint. It has only a small amount of that, but therefore you have to look for that. And if you have a question also for support, you have to tell them OneDrive for Business, the number, Word, and also the Windows version that they have to do it. You can have it transmitted. Most of them use it, then they know that's OneDrive for Business and not OneDrive. You was a little bit quicker.
Yeah, but you have a little bit more extra info on that one. So next question, file request. What's that?
File request. Okay, let's say if you go inside with request files, means that I do not have to take the people out in my organization. If I want something from Stephan or from Tommy, yes, we have collection sharing, but if I have a people outside the organization, I do not want to have it inside my organization. If I need some pictures or so, I can send him. I prepare my OneDrive for Business, and then I prepare it and say, okay, I want here in this folder the answers. So I give and say, hey, send me your files you have about the pictures for this community event. Okay, cut it together. They build it and say, I upload all the stuff. And then if I have it uploaded, then I see all the files. They have no access. They are not inside the communication. They are not inside as an external user. It's only that they have the possibility to upload the files. And me as an organizer of a request of files, I got also the information, hey, Stephan has invited, has seen. I got a notification about that. So I do not have to wait and I see it if he have uploaded. And there's a mechanism, but you have to know to go with requested files. You have to see that the functionality is based off, I want to have anonymous access. So that must be available. And many people or many administrators, they do not know about this stuff. They say no anonymous access for there. So if you have no access for your OneDrive for Business to share information normally with external anonymously, means if you got it, you can also send it to another people. They have also access. Therefore, they do not want to have that. Then you have no chance to get request files. My answer was a little bit longer.
Yeah, much more information in there. So we have two to go. First off, what's up with sharing?
Yes, as I mentioned with sharing you have to know the sharing possibility is in so many things in there. So you see in this, take up the picture in the upper one and open it a little bit, and you see OneDrive. That's a OneDrive for Business. It's a blue icon. If you have a gray icon, you have OneDrive Personal. OneDrive for Business. You have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Teams, Outlook, SharePoint. You have the web possibilities. You have desktop apps. You have mobile apps in iOS and Android. All these people can access OneDrive or SharePoint libraries. And then you can have the ability from all with the same logic and say, I want to share information inside my company or outside my company. And that's the same experience you have to. If you open the second one, you see that and you know that possibility in black or in white. If you, I like black, but it's not so good for demos. But you see, it's in 4 parts. Anyone with the link, it's anonymous. We have learned that. People in my organization is also inside the organization, and people with existing access. We don't talk about that. Specific people means it's although external. So now we have 2 different. Anonym is this people has to, and there is only an anonymous link, the expiring date there. And you can set the password we talked about a little bit before, and therefore it's anonym. But you have expiring date. The administrator gives a complete expiring date up to 730 days. Normally you have 90 days or less. And then the access will no longer. The link will be closed, let's say. So, and specific people, I can send it to external only with this address. And he has to open it, he has access, never out of time, but only he has access. And that means, okay, if he sent this link to another person, no information. And therefore, that's a different one. And this information is sharing in all these programs we have shown. That's about external or about sharing. We will have it also in Teams in a few weeks, hopefully, that we have all information. That's the 5th part. We don't see that here. That's the 5th part that will come in the future. All people are inside this Teams has access. So that's a different one. Okay.
See, and that's an information you'll only get when speaking to you, because that's not even in the docs right now. So I have a last question. There's this new feature called Add to OneDrive. So do you know?
Yes, Add to OneDrive is okay. That's an absolutely new thing, and people don't know, hey, what's going on. If you see, I make this icon. You see this icon. Normally, you have to go, or the administrators can say, we have a SharePoint library and a SharePoint online, and we say, all or nothing means, yes, it will sync to different people. That can be done by group policy. Perfect. But sometimes you have to know the limitation of your engine is limited up to 300,000 files. Not the amount is very interesting. That means you cannot have it more, otherwise you are not able to work with your machine. The synchronization with 20 or 30 people they have access, the machine will be overloaded with too many files. So Microsoft decided it adds shortcut to my files. And the thing is, you have to go, and therefore it's not automatically. You work in a different part. I know Stephan is working on so many platforms with bots and all these AI things. So then he has to say, okay, for this part, he has to say, okay, I want it either the big one, only a small one. You have to go to SharePoint Online. Yes, the people have to do it manually. There's no group policy there. And go inside a big vault of files inside the directory, the files, the folder, and say, okay, this folder I will share with a person. And then as a receiver, I see that and I can say add a shortcut to them. You know, shortcuts like normal shortcuts will in a different way. You can rename that. And the different one is, although for that, normally the files are only on this machine if you do that. If you have more than one machine, thinking about mobile, it's also on a machine. If you have more than one device, you have to do it separately. 1, 2, 3, up to 5. So with this one, if you add a shortcut to my files, you have to test that. That's very interesting. It goes in your OneDrive for Business, and you see this little marker. If you present the picture a little bit better, means this marker is an anchor. That means it's a shortcut on the left side. And then you see that in OneDrive for Business. That's part of a library. So people have to say, OneDrive for Business is your business private thing, never anything. It's not yours, it's in there. And then the thing is, you can rename that, and it's on all your machines you have with one part. And if you are working on that and the project is closed, you have to say, okay, remove shortcut, and all things are closed. That means are deleted on all machines. And that's a great thing. It proceeds only a small amount of work and not the whole library for years, only a small part. And then you have the work, you can work with them. You can rename that. I rename that always with underscore. So I have it at the beginning of my OneDrive list and see the difference. I have not to show. And you can rename that. That's not only on for your machines, but not on the source, and therefore it's handling called add to shortcut. But it's in the early stage and no one has the script that you have the new things. Therefore, yeah, that's the new information. I run this.
So we'll see basically if you speak with the bot, you'll get the answer in a compact way. If you speak with Hans, you will get the full answer. So we'll get much more information along with your answer when you speak with the person than when you speak with the bot, which is a good thing because the bot should actually just answer the user's question or just provide, let's say, a link to a docs article or to a blog or stuff like that. So the people who have the question who will seeking information, they will be helped quite immediately. And I guess we agree on that. The bot answered faster, but Hans answered in greater detail. So both of them won. And with that, I guess we can say thank you. Thanks to the sponsors and to the organizers. I don't know, Hans, if you have any more words to say. And maybe
only you follow us on Twitter or something. You got the quickest answer if I have with Twitter or LinkedIn. So therefore, it's a thing. You can also write me an email. Therefore, it's better to write it down if you have a question. So the new things in the bot, it's for me, it's easy. If I write about the stuff and write a blog post, I also enhance the knowledge base. So if I write it down, the next thing is, okay, you have it in, like if you follow me and with the blog, you have the newest information. But I think a few days later, you will have it also on the bot. You don't have to install anything. And that's interesting. You also have to say, okay, I have heard something about that. If there is information or what I have shortcut, and you give it in the information in there and it's there. So therefore, follow me or follow Stephan on this stuff. Like Twitter, to give them more information about that, you can ask us. And we have some times now we are good. We run the knowledge because they are starting late, so we have 15 minutes for questions. So is there any question there?